Good afternoon and thank you for coming. The topic of today is Krishnamurti and David Bohm. And we are very honored to have David Moody here as a speaker.
Thank you, Ulrich, and thank you all for coming today. It's so nice to be speaking here at the beautiful Ojai Retreat. And I think I should congratulate you all for making it here on time today, since this is the first day of daylight saving time, and you had to remember to set your clocks ahead, and you might have missed an hour of sleep. And I was reading an article yesterday that said, actually they studied this statistically, the incidence of heart attacks actually increases in the first day or two after daylight saving time goes into effect. And so I just want to make sure, if anybody starts feeling any chest pains, please don't feel like you have to stay for the whole talk or anything, okay? So today we're going to talk about the unusual, or we might even say the extraordinary, relationship between J. Krishnamurti and the quantum theoretical physicist David Bohm. What brought these two men together, and two men from such utterly different backgrounds? And in order to approach this topic, I'd like to use as a springboard some of the material in my book, The Unconditioned Mind. The book has been out now for 3 months, and we're into a second printing, and as Ulrich mentioned, I'll be signing copies of it after the talk. Now, the title of the book is The Unconditioned Mind, and I think that's a pretty good description of the essence of the book, but it's a little bit abstract and poetic. And so the book has a subtitle, which is kind of more prosaic and informative, and that is J. Krishnamurti and the Oak Grove School. You know, really the title and the subtitle work together and complement one another, and you know, together they give a more rounded sense of what the book is about than either one could do by itself. But I was thinking the other day, you know, what if there could be a third level? What if there could be a subtitle to the subtitle, a subtitle? What would it be for my book? And I was thinking, you know, this would have to be as succinct as the title, but as informative as the subtitle. And it occurred to me that if I had a subtitle, it might be something like, Krishnamurti in context. Krishnamurti in context. Now, that may not sound terribly interesting, which is probably why you don't see that language in the title or the subtitle. But still, I think Krishnamurti in context is a valuable thing to have, and an important contribution to the literature on Krishnamurti. You see, most of that literature falls into the category of biographies or memoirs, and neither of these categories really explores his teachings, his philosophy, to any significant extent. But the man and the teachings, I don't think, can be entirely separated. So if you want to learn about Krishnamurti, you have to go to his published works for the teachings, and the biographies and memoirs to learn about the man, and you kind of have to put the two together by yourself. But my book tries to integrate both sides of the equation into a single narrative. The teachings themselves are represented through dialogues that Krishnamurti conducted with Oak Grove staff, as well as through my questioning him about various points in the teachings and his replies. And the book also includes descriptions of the people around Krishnamurti and the manner of his interaction with them. So the combination of observations of the man himself and of the people surrounding him and of the substance of his philosophy, all that in a single package is what I mean by Krishnamurti in context. And one of the people who has read the book is the present director of Oak Grove School, Meredy Benson Rice, and she kind of illustrated the concept of Krishnamurti in context in a rather colorful and amusing way. She said to me, "I can't believe how many lunches you had with Krishnamurti." And it's true that lunchtime conversations keep coming up over and over through the book. In fact, I devoted an entire chapter to describing the quality of those lunches, and I'd like to read a portion of that chapter to give you a sense of what I mean by Krishnamurti in context. These lunches took place in the east end of the Ojai Valley on a property known as Arya Vihara, which is Sanskrit for noble dwelling. When Krishnamurti was in Ojai from February through May of each year, it was his custom to have lunch in the long dining room of Arya Vihara, in the downstairs portion of the building where I lived upstairs with my wife. The number of invited guests varied from half a dozen to 18 or 20, and in the absence of special circumstances, it was understood that I was welcome to attend. This daily interlude was a pleasure as well as an honor, for it afforded the opportunity to observe and interact with Krishnamurti without the pressure of business to conduct or the demands of psychological inquiry. Lunch was scheduled to begin at 1 o'clock, but Krishnamurti usually arrived 10 or 15 minutes late. He would walk down from his cottage and enter Arya Vihara through the back kitchen door. There he would greet Michael Cronin, the chef and unofficial master of ceremonies, and find out what was for lunch. While final preparations were underway, the lunch guests would be gathering in the living room, usually beginning with Theo Liliefelt, who was one of the trustees of the Krishnamurti Foundation, who took his place as early as 12:30. Krishnamurti might help Michael by carrying 1 or 2 dishes out to the serving room, and when he had determined that everything was in order, he would walk from the kitchen area down the long dining hall to the living room and announce quietly, "Madame est servie," Madam is served. A line would then form of all those present down the side of the dining room and into the serving room, where the meal was set out in buffet style. As Arya Vihara was his home, Krishnamurti felt that he should be last in line. This was a matter not only of courtesy, but also because Michael might have miscalculated and not prepared enough of one dish or another, and Krishnamurti would not have been comfortable taking a serving for himself at the expense of anyone else. I felt I should adopt a somewhat similar policy, since Arya Vihara was now my home as well, and I tended to gravitate toward the end of the line, often right in front of Krishnamurti. But in this regard, we were all trumped by Michael, who was also sensitive to the obligations and prerogatives involved. Michael insisted that he should come behind even Krishnamurti in line. This sometimes led to a little jocular jousting for position, but Michael had no doubt that he, as chef, had to be last at all times, and eventually Krishnamurti acceded to his sense of certainty. One's place in line was a matter secondary, but not unrelated, to seating position at the table. Krishnamurti had his own preferred place, a corner position at the far end. Many of the guests would probably have liked to sit near him, but no one wanted to be seen as seeking him out or hungry for his attention. As a result, the table tended to fill up from the middle outwards, with 1 or 2 choice positions, either next to Krishnamurti or opposite him, often available to those at the end of the line. Michael invariably occupied one of those prize spots. It was his reward after toiling all morning in the kitchen, and I was often able to take another. Krishnamurti's manner at lunch was shy and subdued. After everyone had served themselves and settled into their places, and the mixed hum of utensils and chatter had begun to fill the room, he would look up at Michael and inquire, "Well, sir, what is the news?" Michael would be ready with a full report on the events of the day, gleaned from a survey of radio reports and newspapers, especially his favorite, the internationally minded Christian Science Monitor. For 5 or 10 minutes, Michael would regale Krishnamurti with a select rendition of topics, chosen with an eye for general significance or for the light they cast on human nature or the overall state of mankind. Krishnamurti listened most attentively and often followed up with specific questions. These could lead into open-ended conversations on subjects of every variety, with contributions from anyone at the table. The overall spirit and tone of these conversations was casual, but conducted within an atmosphere of courtesy and good taste. The table was often adorned with one or two vases filled with flowers freshly cut from the garden, and the vegetarian cuisine was exquisitely prepared. At lunch, a more personal tone prevailed in the quality of the interaction with Krishnamurti, and in that spirit I learned to address him with a name that had attached to him from his youth, Krishnaji. At first it seemed rather odd to adopt this manner of speech, but after it became familiar, the soft tones and gentle respect it conveyed seemed well suited to the individual. In any case, he accepted it without comment. After everyone had finished eating, Krishnamurti would remain seated for 10 or 15 minutes or longer, depending upon the course of the conversation. Unless they had urgent business to attend to, no one else got up to leave while he remained. In these somewhat contemplative intervals, the conversation might assume a deeper tone or add a richer degree of color. The central issues of psychological inquiry were still too serious for table talk, but more peripheral psychological topics might enter in. Those present might offer views on yoga, dietary fads, or the latest guru in the public eye. Krishnamurti might have some joke to tell, often one involving God, world leaders, or global events. At times, a gentle silence would fall upon the room, and the essentially sacred quality of the atmosphere, a rare perfume of beauty, order, and conviviality, would become palpable. When Krishnamurti got up from the table, everyone else followed suit. We would each take our plates into the kitchen, rinse them off, and put them in the dishwasher. Krishnamurti would leave by the back kitchen door and walk slowly up to his cottage, and the highlight of the day was over.